Hey guys, Zero here, and today I'm playing the Journeyman Project 2, Buried in Time for the PC. Now, it's been a long time since I did my LP for the first game in this series, the Journeyman Project Turbo. That was back in 2012. At the end of the LP, I said that I might do Buried in Time somewhere down the line. Part of the reason I was holding off was because of recording issues I had with the first game, and I knew the second would take a lot more planning to show it in the way that I wanted to do it. Well, it only took 12 years, but I'm finally doing it. I've been thinking about this game over the last few months, and it just felt like it was the right time. Now, before we get going, I just want to mention a few things. As you can probably tell, I'm playing this game through ScumVM, simply because this game does not like running under Windows 11, and ScumVM was a simple and effective solution. And don't mind the screen resolution, I know some of the menu is being cut off, but the actual game will look fine. As for the game itself, there is a certain character that gets introduced, and this character talks a lot if you let them. Those who know the game know who I'm talking about. For this playthrough, I'm going to show off almost 100% of their stuff, because I want to show as much of the game as I can, and also because they are personally one of the main reasons why I love this series. I'll also be showing off all the death screens that I know of. And finally, this first video is going to be particularly long, simply because there's a lot of information to go through that sets up the story, and I also want to show at least some actual gameplay, but it takes a little while to get there. The remaining videos should be closer to a normal length for me. With all that said, let's get started. I love that intro. It's so good. Alright, now, before we actually jump into the main part of the game here, you can change the difficulty of this game from adventure to walkthrough. I don't know if I've ever actually done that playing this game. For me, I want to see everything anyway, so we'll leave it on adventure. You can skip the intro, but of course we're going to want to see that. The only other thing here is this interface overview. It's a nice little thing to have, I suppose. It's not necessary. But I don't want to show this just yet, because otherwise you'll see a part of the game that you'll understand what I mean when we get there. It kind of won't make sense. It's a little early, I think, to see it. So I'll show this, just for completeness sake, at the end of this first part. So let's jump into the actual game here.
First visit, Earth has been officially admitted into the Symbiotry of peaceful beings.
Gratitude that I honor you, Gage Blackwood, with the Paragon Medal for Valorous Service.
Press conference this morning, the government admitted the existence of the Temporal Security Agency, an organization.
The arrest of Elliot Sinclair can be attributed to Agent 5, Gage Blackwood, who single-handedly defeated Sinclair's men.
Quick, there's not much time to explain. They'll be here any second. Yes, I am you. I've come from the future. We've been framed. Now, whatever you try to do, do not interfere with what's about to happen. The suit I'm going to transfer over to you will keep you close, so just stand still and watch. When it's all over, you'll be pulled 10 years forward in the future to my present. From there out, it's all up to you. Oh, and I've hidden more information inside of you. You'll figure out what I mean. Here comes the jumpsuit.
Come on, Gage. Let's go.
Well, that's certainly a way to start the game. So it's kind of nice because they give just a little kind of brief overview of what happened in the first game, the main beats, right? You're Agent 5, you saved the world because you stopped Dr. Elliot Sinclair in the first one, who was plotting to change Earth's history and make it so that the Sorolans who were coming to invite us into the Symbiotry of peaceful beings would instead not do it because he believed that the aliens were here to conquer us and whatnot. And our future self, 10 years in the future, has come back, told us we've been framed. Framed for what? We don't know yet. And we need to save our skin. Now, I promise we will explore Gage's house here in its entirety as much as we can a little bit later for a very specific reason. For right now, I just want to hit the main important things. And the first thing that we need to try to figure out is he gave us a clue that he's hidden more information inside of us, and we'll figure out what that means. Well, there's only so many places we can go in this apartment or this house or whatever we're in here. It's fairly small, but let's just jump straight to the main thing. You'll see this shelf over here. Has a little bit of an action figurine, and if you zoom in, it does have Agent 5's number on us. So that's us. So, and the game does also show a hand here, so you know it's clickable. So let's try clicking this. But before we do, luckily, since I am doing this through ScumVM, I have a little bit of control over some of the volume settings. You'll see here that I've adjusted some of the sliders. I don't think the speech volume necessarily helps. Unfortunately, sometimes the game has things like the cutscenes where it's all one audio track, so if I adjust like one or the other, I might be able to affect parts of it, or it's all connected together. So in this particular case, just to make sure you can hear it its entirety, I'll adjust the sound effects volume because that will make it so you can hear the voice better for this clip, and then I'll turn it back down. So I'll be doing some adjustment as I go throughout the playthrough. So let's try listening to this here.
Since you're getting this message, I'm assuming everything went well. Now, before you do anything, you need to understand that the role of the TSA has changed in recent years. In addition to the security unit, there's now another team whose job it is to research history. That's the team I was on. That is, until someone altered history at 4 of my research mission locations. They weren't major changes, just enough to create temporal ripples. When another agent discovered the temporal ripples about a week ago, I was suspended and put on house arrest. Then they discovered some evidence, and by the next day I was already on trial. I had just about given up hope last night when it hit me. I'm being watched, but you can still prove that we're innocent. So I've decided to break house arrest and jump back in time to get your help. Right now I'm probably in jail. If they know where I am, they won't be looking for me. You'll be free to jump to any of my research mission locations to see what's going on. Now pay attention. This is important. Go to each of the 4 time zones and gather as many clues as you can find. Try and discover what's been changed and how. I've programmed the jumpsuit to auto-record any evidence you might find. Oh, and one more thing. I don't know if this has anything to do with what's going on, but I was at the TSA a couple weeks ago doing an unscheduled check of the security grid. I noticed something was wrong. It seems a couple of the feedback jumpers had gotten crossed. A good portion of the security grid was compromised for I don't know how long. Anyone with the right information could have gotten into or out of the TSA, the Pegasus warehouse, or any of the restricted areas without even being seen. I'm still not sure why I'm being set up, but I think this might have something to do with it. Be careful. Our life is on the line.
Alright, so that gives us the basic rundown. We've been framed for something, and they found some evidence against us, and he got the idea to jump back and basically recruit our help. So he's definitely in jail right now, and we're going to have to jump to his 4 locations in his time thing. But before we do that, we need to get some other information. We have a couple of biochips here, and I'm going to kind of go through the different descriptions for them. So you click this magnifying glass, you can see biochip blank. New functions can be added to the jumpsuit by downloading program information into blank biochips. You got the cloak. When activated, the cloak biochip renders an agent invisible. However, movement destroys the mask of invisibility, so the agent must stand still to remain unseen. Now, we've seen this used before. The game did it automatically, but there'll be a couple of parts where we can make use of it ourselves. Evidence. I've programmed this optical memory biochip to catalog any evidence you find. It'll record everything you see, but evidence will be indexed so that you can queue it up quickly. Files. The Temporal Security Annex data files are located on the Files biochip to allow an agent to access this information quickly and easily without having to return to the TSA. Interestingly here, in this game compared to the first, where in the first it was the TSA, it was called the Temporal Security Annex. In this and going forward, they changed it to Temporal Security Agency. I'm not sure exactly why they did it one way or the other, but I happened to notice when preparing for this, this was, I think, the only part I found where they still use the old name. The rest call it Agency. Maybe a slight oversight on their part. I don't know. Interface. The interface biochip controls all file and computer control functions. It lets us save and load. And then jump. The jump biochip contains the jumpsuit's time travel controls. It is used to travel to mission locations or recall back to the present. Before beginning a mission, an agent must review the briefing. So real quick, let's make use of the interface one. So once we have it selected, you can click it here. It changes the biochip display. We can do save, load, restore, and let's go ahead and make a save here. So we're going to make a couple of saves. We'll do a temp 1, and we'll do a temp 2. We'll kind of alternate between those as we go, as I need them. And again, we will explore the rest of this, because if you know the first game, which you should if you're watching this, you can recognize these are the robots that we had to fight in the first game. But we'll check them out a little later. Again, trust me, I have a very specific reason why I'm holding off on that. For now, there are 2 main things we need to do before we can really jump into some things. It's a lot of information. Kind of an information dump, I know, but I feel like it's important to get an understanding of some of the elements of what's happening in this world, in this game, and the story, for us to really kind of like move along. So, if you know these and you want to kind of just skip forward and skip a lot of this text and stuff, by all means, go ahead. I'm going to try to focus on just really the most important stuff. Some of it I will skip over. So if we look at the files, we have a couple of things. Let's start with the background. These are kind of small here. Development of technology. The world's first time machine, known as Pegasus, was the brainchild of part-time historian and full-time physicist Elliot Sinclair. In 2311, after seeing Sinclair's time-bending experiments, the government contracted him to build a full-scale operational time machine. The purpose of this device was to explore our past, as well as to discover the truth behind many disputed historical events. Just 4 years after the project was begun, the world's first time machine underwent its first test run. Founding of the TSA. The test run would be the first and last time that the Pegasus would be used for research purposes. Due to mounting concern by government officials that such a device could lead to the accidental permutation of history, the project was discontinued. Sinclair was forbidden to ever work on time distortion projects again. And with the illicit construction of time travel devices now being a very real threat, the government secretly set up the Temporal Security Agency as a means to safeguard history from sabotage. See, they call it agency here. The jumpsuit. As had been expected, Earth's incorporation into the symbiotry of peaceful beings brought with it astounding advances in technology. These advances aided the TSA in developing the next generation of time machines. The Time Displacement Unit, or jumpsuit, incorporates an entire time machine into a mobile, self-contained suit. The greatest advantage of the jumpsuit is that it can forge its own null time tunnel from one location to another, eliminating the need to return to the present between jumps. This new technology rendered Pegasus obsolete, and in August of 2325, the time machine was dismantled. Its huge generator was destroyed, and the smaller core elements put into storage in a location known only to the agents of the Temporal Security Agency. And lastly, divisions of the TSA. Along with the development of the Time Displacement Unit came a rethinking and restructuring of the Temporal Security Agency. Gone were the days of historical security relying entirely on one agent using one machine. Now, multiple agents had the freedom to move through time at will, and several years had gone by without incident, changing the prevailing opinion on the danger of time travel technology. In 2327, the decision was made to expand the Temporal Security Annex, I'll see again they changed it, to include a historical research team. This team, self-dubbed the Deep Time Unit, is comprised, sorry, I don't know why, I had that happen once before when I was preparing, it just like randomly closes it, I'm not sure why. Self-dubbed the Deep Time Unit is comprised of 4 individuals who are each responsible for researching and recording various periods of history. Okay, now we're going to skip the agent dossiers for right now. Trust me, we will come back to this. If we go to the jumpsuit overview, the Time Displacement Unit, more commonly known as the jumpsuit, is the Temporal Security Agent's mode of time travel. Each of the TSA's 10 jumpsuits have been coded specifically to the DNA of the agent to which it has been assigned and cannot be used by anyone other than the assignee. Unauthorized tampering with the suit will result in the self-destruction of its neurocircuitry. Though the jumpsuit offers freedom of travel, it does not provide the agent with much protection. For this reason, it has been equipped with cloaking technology that renders it invisible to onlookers. This feature is vital to the members of the Deep Time Unit, who must exercise extreme discretion while researching the past. However, as moving destroys the illusion of invisibility, the suit's navigation buttons are disabled while it is cloaked. The jumpsuit has also been equipped with an oxygen rebreather and compressed air supply for environments with little or no oxygen. This reserve immediately refills when the agent returns to an oxygenated environment. So that's kind of nice. Kind of gives you a rundown of like how the technology has gotten better and whatnot, what's changed with the TSA. And like I said, we'll get back to the agents in a bit. For now, there are basically a lot of video clips and other text things that we need to read through. I will also mention, accessing this and going, I believe, through the jumpsuit overview gave us a research point. We can't see that score yet. You only see it on the death screens or at the very end of the game. But there are 15 that you can get throughout. So I'll try to point out where they are. So right now, we should have a research point of 1 out of 15. We just can't see it yet. So let's move on over here. And again, we'll see the rest of the apartment a little later. For now, we gotta check out the news. It's gonna give us a lot of information about what's really kind of going on right now, as well as some clues as to maybe who's behind this. So we'll zoom in on this here. This is the TV of the future. It's our Environ system, which we kind of had in the first game. You even saw it during the intro. We were in Gage's old apartment, and it had a similar look to how it was in the first game. In that one, it was very simple, though. When you do the Environ, in the other one, it had a couple of background changes and whatnot, and I think a few music tracks. For here, I think it's really just kind of this look. You can kind of click and change the environment that you're looking at. I don't think there's anything you can actually change with the music. So it's a neat little thing to have in here. It's just like, you know, for relaxing. But for us, we don't have time for that. We have a mystery to solve. So let's actually do what we need to with this and check out the news. And before we do, I'm going to again adjust the volume simply because I want you to be able to hear all the speech in this section. The INN, the Interactive News Network. It's the news of the future. Because rather than being stuck to what they just have airing, you can click and see what you want to. I mean, this game was made, quite a while ago, but we probably have basically this kind of thing now where you can look up anything you want to on the fly. But let's just kind of go in order here and check out the first headline story. Agent 5 breaks house arrest.
INN will return after a word from our sponsor.
The soon-to-be-released Geno, A Fond Remembrance, is Volume 4 of G-Tech's Rock Through the Ages collection. Never before has there been a video collection that captures the many moods of Geno Andrews. You'll hear the melancholy Geno.
So many songs about the rain.
The rebellious Geno.
When you selling yourself, set a price to pay. When you're selling yourself, make it some way.
Yes, the carefree Geno.
It's been my dream to be a traveler of sorts, to visit all kinds.
And of course, the lovesick Geno.
A song for her is all she wants from me.
All of his chart-topping videos are here, brought back from the archives of the past and completely remastered in stunning 4D sound. In fact, Geno, A Fond Remembrance is the most complete collection of Geno's hits ever compiled on one EC. Call our toll-free ShopNet line now and receive a free sample from the upcoming EC that's bound to be an instant classic. Geno, A Fond Remembrance.
I love that they put these in here. And Geno Andrews is one of the members of the team who made this game. So just the fact that they interject themselves, I find it really funny. And now pay attention to the shop code because we might get a little use out of it later. Let's go ahead and move on.
The ongoing saga of Gage Blackwood took a frightening twist this morning when the agent of the Deep Time Unit broke house arrest to jump 9 years back in time. Fortunately, the illicit time jump was detected and he was immediately apprehended by Agent 8 of the Temporal Protectorate. Although it's still not clear how and why Blackwood obtained the TSA jumpsuit, Temporal Security Agency officials did say that no distortion ripples have yet been detected and that there is no reason whatsoever to believe that Blackwood has altered history in any way. Our Lisa Long has a report from TSA Administrative Headquarters.
And then it pauses waiting for you to go to the next one. So our future self seems to have been correct in that by doing what he did and giving us the suit, and now that he's back in jail, they didn't find anything seem to be off because he didn't really change anything, at least nothing major that would be detected. So for now, we seem to be safe. No one seems to be the wiser that we're actually here right now.
In a strange turn of events that can only be described as unimaginable, the highly decorated Gage Blackwood, better known as Agent 5 of the Deep Time Unit, has been arrested and put on trial for the crime of historical sabotage. We apologize for the lack of trial footage, but because of the sensitive nature of the material being presented, no recording equipment has been allowed into the tribunal wing of the United Ministry Complex where the trial is being held. The drama unfolded 3 weeks ago when Agent 2 of the Temporal Protectorate discovered 4 distortion ripples while conducting an unscheduled historical scan. As it turned out, the dates of the ripples exactly coincided with times to which Agent 5 had been sent for research purposes. The agent immediately contacted his supervisors, and on their orders, 3 agents were sent to apprehend Agent 5, who offered no resistance. Later that day, more evidence was found in Blackwood's locker, suggesting that he had disobeyed Temporal Security Agency directives for personal gain. Unless deemed absolutely necessary, the TSA will not send agents to investigate or restore the distortions, as Any further tampering with history may cause adverse effects, possibly even turning the ripples into full reality distortion waves.
Okay, so we get a little more information. So, temporal ripples were created at our location zones. It makes sense why they think Agent 5 did it, and then they're talking about that they found some evidence as well, presumably stuff that we maybe stole from the different time zones, like she said, for personal gain. Although that is very much against Agent 5's nature, I mean, with the evidence there, they kind of had no choice but to arrest us. So, let's keep going. So now, that's the end of that part where you actually have some video clips. Sometimes you get more as you click deeper into it, but here at this point, there's a lot of text to go through. Some of it is voiced, other parts of it are not. Anywhere where it's voiced, I'll let the voice do the talking, but for the rest, I'll try to read through at least the parts that I feel like are relevant enough for us to go through. So let's start with the prosecution.
Prosecuting attorney Phil Stevens alleges that Agent 5 intentionally altered the past in 4 of the 10 time zones to which he had been sent for research purposes, his only apparent motive being personal gain. In so doing, Agent 5 would have knowingly violated temporal security agency ethics, as well as the law. As temporal sabotage in any form is considered the worst possible crime against humanity, Stevens is aiming for the maximum allowable sentence. The burden of proof lies on the prosecution. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Gage Blackwood was responsible for the distortion ripples. There is strong evidence working against Blackwood, including both computer records that place him at the altered historical locations and contraband that was discovered in his locker. But the evidence alone is not enough to ensure a conviction. With this in mind, prosecuting attorney Stevens has directed his questioning toward eliminating other possible explanations for the ripples. Witnesses for the prosecution have included Agent 2 of the Temporal Protectorate, the TSA's chief technician, and the designer of the circuitry for the jumpsuit.
Now before we move on with the rest, you'll see that there's a lot of text here in red. You can actually click on that to get a little bit more information. A lot of them are repeated multiple times, which I kind of get because they're referencing a lot. It makes it a little hard to follow along which ones you've read through and which ones you haven't. So forgive me if I double click on or click on one that we've already gone through. But let's kind of jump back real quick, and the voice will go again, but we'll just kind of ignore it.
Prosecuting.
So the Temporal Security Agency. The Temporal Security Annex, again, of the Crime Intervention Commission, also known as the Temporal Security Agency. Okay, I guess they do reference here how they called it like one or the other. Later on, they really just call it the agency. But is known as the government headquarters for time travel activity. From this top secret compound, elite agents safeguard history from illicit time travelers and embark on historical research missions.
Prosecute the burden of proof.
Distortion ripples. Temporal distortions are the result of anachronisms or temporally inappropriate items left in the past. There are 2 basic types of anachronisms that can cause temporal distortions: simple and effective. A simple anachronism is a very minor alteration to the past which has no noticeable effect on history. For example, spilling water would be a simple anachronism, as it would likely evaporate before anyone were to take notice of it. Such minor distortions do not represent a threat and are caused by even the most careful agents from time to time. Of far greater concern are effective anachronisms, of which there are 2 kinds, limited and expansive. While their effects to history are not great, limited effective anachronisms are the result of more significant changes to the past. These changes are usually more enduring than simple anachronisms, but their repercussions, known as temporal distortion ripples, fade with time, as they do not affect anyone greatly enough to alter the course of history. Expansive effective anachronisms, on the other hand, are changes to historically significant items or events that have major repercussions. These anachronisms can cause reality distortion waves, or chain reactions that grow with time, making sweeping changes to history as they do so. If a reality distortion wave should ever reach the present, those who aren't uncreated in its wake will suddenly find themselves with new lives, completely unaware that anything had ever been different. Both types of effective anachronisms are to be taken very seriously, as the most likely cause of such disturbances is deliberate historical sabotage. Like what happened in the first game, where Sinclair changed history so that Earth seemed more aggressive.
The burden of proof. Witnesses for the prosecution.
Deep Time Unit. Along with the development of the Time Displacement Unit came a rethinking and restructuring of the Temporal Security Agency. Gone were the days of historical security relying entirely on one agent using one machine. Now multiple agents had the freedom to move through time at will, and several years had gone by without incident, changing the prevailing opinion of the security of time travel. In 2326, the decision was made to expand the Temporal Security Agency to include a historical research team. This team, self-dubbed the Deep Time Unit, is comprised of 4 individuals who are each responsible for researching and recording various periods of history. The 3 other restructured units of the TSA include the Temporal Protectorate, the Maintenance Team, and Management. The Temporal Protectorate, as before, is responsible for safeguarding history from sabotage. The upkeep of files and equipment is the responsibility of the Maintenance Team, and Management oversees all TSA operations. Can I click on these? I can click on these too. Okay, so let's check these as well. And actually, real quick, let me oh, I need to go back one.
Prosecuting attorney.
Crime Intervention Commission. See, I skipped this. Crime Intervention Commission. As crime began to decline after world unification, the number of policing agencies also began to decrease in number. With the advent of the transporter, the need for such agencies decreased even more, in both number and kind. In 2237, the Crime Intervention Commission was formed as the single agency responsible for controlling crime worldwide. The CIC has several branches, including the Temporal Security Annex. And then again, this brings us back to this. See, it loops back into itself, but it remembers, so I can keep going down further in the tree, so it gets kind of confusing.
Prosecuting the burden of...
And then the ripples. We didn't have anything there.
Witnesses for the...
Protectorate, Time Displaced Unit. Jumpsuit. As had been expected, Earth's incorporation into the Symbiotry of Peaceful Beings brought with it astounding advances in technology. These advances aided the TSA in developing the next generation of time machines. The Time Displacement Unit, or Jumpsuit, incorporates an entire time machine into a mobile... We've read this before. It's talking about the new technology obsolete, dismantled. Huge generators destroyed. Okay, some of it is the same, but let's go back and let's check out the Symbiotry of Peaceful Beings. The Symbiotry of Peaceful Beings, also referred to as the Symbiotry, is a consortium of peaceful races from throughout the galaxy who have come together for the purpose of sharing technology and culture. Earth was admitted into the Symbiotry in November of 2318. Again, TSA, we already know that one. Null time travel. The process of time travel involves creating a breach in the space-time continuum through which the traveler can cross. Within this void, which is called a null time tunnel, the laws of space and time do not apply. Entering or exiting a null time tunnel causes a sudden change in the amount of matter present in the universe at that moment. The result of this change is a startling display of arcing energy known as the displacement effect. So that lightning that we saw from Agent 8 coming in to capture us, as well as Agent 5. Pegasus. The world's first time machine, known as Pegasus, was the brainchild of part-time historian and full-time physicist Elliot Sinclair. We've seen this before, time-bending experiments, fully integrated into the mobile suit. Okay, so that's the same. And then agency again.
Witnesses for the prosecution.
Alright, now, let's check out Agent 2. So now, see, this one is not voiced. So, the investigation began when Agent 2 of the Temporal Protectorate ran an unscheduled manual historical scan, a procedure normally performed twice a year to reveal any anomalies missed by the scanner's faster, but less sensitive automatic scan mode. Agent 2 discovered a temporal ripple that originated in the year 1050 AD, indicating that someone had gone back to that time and affected a historically important object or event. He soon found 3 more ripples in the years 1204 AD, 2247 AD, and 1488 AD. Fortunately, none of the changes were serious enough to cause a full reality distortion wave. The agent then realized that the ripples exactly coincided with several of Agent 5's research mission dates. Agent 2 reported what he had found, and was subsequently sent after Blackwood along with Agents 3 and 7. They located the suspect in Tahiti, where he was spending his day off, and apprehended him without incident. Following TSA protocol, they then brought Agent 5 to the United Ministry complex, where he was arraigned and later released to house arrest. Alright, Temporal Protectorate, it's just this. See, a lot of the same things will lead to the same stuff we've already read. Temporal Ripple, we've already done that. Reality Distortion Wave, again, we've done that. TSA, United Ministry Complex. The United Ministry Complex was built in 2322 to fulfill the need for a single location for all major judicial, political, and symbiotry affairs. In addition to the courthouses and government offices, the complex also houses the Symbiotry embassies and an assembly hall designed to accommodate all of the member races. And you can click back into the Symbiotry, which is the same thing. Chief Technician. Prosecuting Attorney Stevens called the TSA Chief Computer Technician to testify based on his knowledge of the chronolog scanner array. The technician testified that the chronolog scanners were designed to detect any illicit time jumps and are monitored at all times by a member of the Temporal Protectorate. Yet, to his knowledge, at no point during the period in question were the scanners ever offline or performing improperly, and at no point was an unsanctioned time jump detected, a fact corroborated by the security logs. So TSA array chronolog scanners. Located within the Temporal Security Annex, the chronolog scanner array monitors history for illicit time jumps and temporal distortions. However, as history is so vast, the scanner's sensitivity has been reduced to give them the speed necessary to continually monitor the entire past for distortions. As a result, the sensors are not able to detect minor distortions in automatic scan mode, and thorough manual scans must be performed twice a year. Scanners is the same thing. Temporal Protectorate, same thing. Circuitry designer. Mrs. Margine Chow was called to testify upon her knowledge of the time displacement unit or jumpsuit for which she designed the circuitry. When asked whether it was possible for someone else to have used Agent 5's jumpsuit, Ms. Chow said that security precautions mandated that only one person be able to use each suit. She went on to explain that each jumpsuit is coded specifically to the DNA of the agent who uses it and will automatically self-destruct if tampered with. So that kind of works against us, because if only the agents can use the jumpsuits, that makes it more possible that we are the one who actually committed these crimes. But we'll see if there's something else going on right now. Jumpsuit, jumpsuit, jumpsuit. They're all jumpsuits. Computer records. In addition to the computer records which document Agent 5's research activity, the video log reports made by him during his research mission jumps definitely place him at each of the altered historical locations. The files were not made available to the press. While this may be true, it kind of makes sense. It's like, well, yeah, I'm here to research these things. Of course I show up at them. Still, nonetheless, it is a piece of evidence that can be used against us. Physical evidence. An investigation of Agent 5's locker revealed one valuable, but not historically significant object from each of the 4 altered time zones that he was sent to. The 4 items included a gold ornament from Chichen Itza, a jeweled ore from Chateau Guillard, a sketch from Leonardo da Vinci's studio, and a signed document from Kenneth Farinstein's lab. Now, we can click into each of these here. This gets into a bunch of history stuff that, while it is interesting and it's nice to have it in here, I personally do not really care so much. I'm not going to read all these because this is going to take quite a while anyways, but if you want, you can go ahead and pause and read it yourself. I'm just going to kind of slowly click through all the different things that talk about all these different time periods and whatnot, but for right now, I can't be bothered, so pause as you need. I'm just going to kind of slowly click through. Okay, I think that's most of it there. I may have missed one small submenu somewhere, but you can see, because they loop into themselves, it gets kind of confusing. But nice information, and some of it would tie into some of the things we're going to come across, but trust me, for the main purposes of this, it's okay if we didn't fully go through any of that. We'll be fine. Okay, so that's the prosecution. Let's move on to the defense.
In the absence of an alibi or any evidence proving Agent 5's innocence, defense attorney Sandra Gallagher will be setting out to show, through the testimony of character witnesses, that it is not likely Mr. Blackwood committed the crime. If the defense can elicit some doubt of Blackwood's guilt, he will go free. Witnesses for the defense will include Agent 3 of the Deep Time Unit, Agent 8 of the Temporal Protectorate, the Commissioner of the Temporal Security Agency, and Agent 5 himself. The defense has not yet had the opportunity to present its case. However, we have contacted both the Chief Technician and Commissioner of the TSA to ask them their feelings on the arrest of Gage Blackwood. Neither Agent 3 of the Temporal Security Agency nor Mr. Blackwood could be reached for comment.
And real quick, just double check. These are all ones we've gone through.
The defense has not yet had the
Okay, we got a couple of video clips here. Chief Technician.
With us now is William Doughton, the TSA Chief Technician. He joins us live from the Temporal Security Agency Administrative Headquarters. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Doughton.
Thank you, Mark.
You've known Gage Blackwood for many years, and I understand that the two of you are good friends. Do you think he's guilty?
Absolutely not. The thought that he could be guilty never even crossed my mind. I mean, friend or no, here you've got someone who's dedicated his whole life to protecting history and now stands accused of violating it. That's ridiculous. And if you don't believe me, look at his record. The man's a decorated hero. You can't overlook that fact just because it doesn't fit neatly into the story the prosecution's trying to sell.
Isn't it true you testified that no one else made a time jump to any of the altered historical locations?
No, actually I testified the scanners didn't register anyone making a time jump to those locations. But computers are only as intelligent as their human programmers. Now, I believe it's possible that someone could have shadowed Agent 5's jumps. If a second time traveler were to make a jump within a few seconds of the first into the same location, the chronolog scanners probably wouldn't recognize it as a second jump.
Have you been able to test this theory?
No, not yet. It's too dangerous. If two people were to travel through the same null time tunnel and land in the exact same place, well, their matter would mix and that would kill them.
And you believe that someone found a way around this?
It's possible, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for your insights, Mr. Doughton.
You can see that Will was a little uncomfortable, but I mean, it's true, and he had to be very specific. It's like, we didn't detect, it is possible, but the whole idea of shadowing, doing a second jump behind someone and mixing your matter, yeah, that seems kind of dicey, but it does at least give the possibility that just because we didn't detect a scan doesn't mean that there wasn't some other kind of jump made, or maybe even in some other manner that they weren't aware of. So that does at least help a little bit for the defense. It's not, I don't think it's the strongest, but it's something. Let's go with the commissioner.
I have with me now Commissioner Jack Baldwin of the Temporal Security Agency, who's coming to us live from TSA Administrative Headquarters. Commissioner, thank you for joining us. Now, the first and most obvious question is, are you confident in your arrest of Gage Blackwood as the perpetrator of this crime?
We had to arrest Agent 5 because of the evidence, not because we think he did it. There was an obvious transgression. Someone was responsible for it, so we arrested the person to whom the evidence pointed. Now it's up to the courts to determine whether or not he's guilty.
So you believe he's innocent?
Absolutely. I've known Gage ever since he joined the TSA. In fact, I'm the one who recruited him. Gage Blackwood is a member of an endangered species. Gage Blackwood is a hero. He has put his life on the line many times to prevent this exact thing from happening. There's absolutely no way he would have abused his position at the risk of a single life, let alone history as we know it. Now, it just doesn't make sense.
Mr. Blackwood has been an agent for quite a while now, 13 years, I believe. Is it possible that the temptation just became too great for him to bear?
No. Gage is as committed to his duty now as he was back when he apprehended Elliot Sinclair. He was, and he is, our finest agent.
Okay, let's assume for a minute that he did do it. Knowing that he would be facing life imprisonment on Vega Thalon, do you feel that he would plead guilty?
First of all, it's a moot point because he didn't do it. But, presuming he did, knowing Gage, I'd say he had a damn good reason. And he would have confessed immediately. He wouldn't have pretended innocence, not for 1 minute. Bottom line, Gage Blackwood is no criminal. Gage Blackwood is a hero.
Okay, Commissioner, it looks like we're out of time. Thank you.
It always threw me off the long stares that they had to give before it actually like pauses. But so Baldwin's and he's on our side, and the actor who plays him there, that character does actually continue into the third game. It's the same actor, which is kind of nice for continuity. I want to say the actor for Will changes, I believe, as well as the one for definitely Agent 5 changes, but he at least sticks around. But okay, so that's the defense, and last we have an editorial.
If Blackwood is indeed guilty, he has altered more than just the past. The future, too, will likely feel the results of his actions. The Deep Time Unit will probably be discontinued before ever realizing its full potential. But there is an even greater issue at stake. That is whether the Temporal Security Agency itself is more of a risk than a safety measure. Many feel that it should be shut down and everything related to time travel destroyed. Others argue that the technology has already been invented, so there's nothing stopping it from being reinvented for the wrong reasons. So in their opinion, the Temporal Security Agency must remain operational to safeguard against future acts of historical sabotage.
See, and I'm of the opinion that once it's been created, you can't uncreate it. You can't just destroy it and forget about it. I am on the side of you have to keep it around, because now more than ever it's proven that like you need to have somebody who's helping watch this, because it could happen again. But that's just me. Alright, so that's for the trial. So that's everything for Agent 5 breaks house arrest. I know, it's a lot, trust me. Now these will go, I think, a little faster than this one. There was a lot to go into for this. But like I said, this first part is going to be long because I feel like it's important that you see all these story elements before we actually start jumping into the different time zones. Because otherwise, we have to read this at some point, and it really sets us up. So it just takes a while to get through. So let's check out the Symbiotry technology discussions.
INN will return after a word from our sponsor. La peinture fraîche.
Jote Latzande. Sasta Gorscht.
If you hadn't understood those important messages, you would have just
Wet Bing.
screwed up your best suit,
The Flippity Van Van.
driven off of a cliff,
Cheap Meat.
been poisoned,
Restaurant smoking in the lobby.
and peed your pants on a foreign planet. Yes, for all those reasons and more, there's the Omniglot DM dual mode translator biochip from Samco. Just pop the Omniglot DM into any standard biotech interface and voila! No more frustration, no more confusion. The Omniglot DM instantly translates the written and spoken forms of any known language. It does it all. The Omniglot DM translator biochip from Samco. Get it today.
Samco Translator Biochip available at Frugal's and other fine stores for low price of $199.90 or order over ShopNet. Product order code 689-22378. 689-22378. Order now.
Order now. Well, they're advertising a biochip, a very useful one at that, so clearly we're gonna need to order that. I love these little advertisement things, because some of them are kind of like silly and maybe don't feel like they're necessary, whereas other ones are very clearly, oh, this is going to help me, I should get that.
The heads of ministry will continue to meet with Symbiotry representatives today in the Assembly Hall of the United Ministry Complex. These talks were requested by several member races as a forum in which to discuss the place of time travel technology in the symbiotry of peaceful beings. Today marks the beginning of the third week of negotiations, yet there is still no end in sight. Sarah Michaels is standing by at the United Ministry Complex with a report.
Thank you, Mark.
The main factor protracting the discussions is the inability of the Symbiotry to decide what should be done with the technology. The representatives have formed 3 distinct factions whose strongly opposing views have caused them to remain tenaciously entrenched in a deadlock. While one group believes we are committing the unforgivable act of hoarding a vital technology, a second supports the Symbiotry tenet that each race has sovereignty over its own technologies. The third contingent, which has grown in strength since the arrest of Agent 5, contends that time travel represents a threat to every race of the Symbiotry and should be destroyed altogether. Even though most attending races strongly disagree with humanity's sole ownership of the technology, our heads of ministry refuse to acknowledge their arguments, citing its inevitable misuse as their foremost concern. Therefore, barring Symbiotry action, it is unlikely that the status of time travel as a proprietary technology of Earth will change.
I mean, again, it's kind of hard. It's like, well, do we share this? It's a useful technology, but hey, it could be misused. Yeah, but if you're the ones who have it, that's kind of dangerous too. It's kind of tough to pick a side 100%, I feel. Now, we have the different ones here. Let's go with appeal for sharing.
The opinion originally held by the majority of races represented at the talks is that time travel technology is an invaluable tool for self-discovery and, as such, should not be denied to any race. However, the Loxoni abandoned this position last week in favor of destroying the technology. Presumably, this sudden change of opinion was due in large part to the arrest of Agent 5, an unfortunate illustration of the danger of time travel. The Dorlun and Zangtrakar, on the other hand, have continued to cling tightly to their convictions. They're of the opinion that this technology is far too important to be buried because of paranoia. Time travel, the Zangtrakar argue, is like any other powerful tool. It represents a danger only if the user doesn't have the insight to take the proper precautions. And if care is taken, there should be no reason whatsoever to fear what should be the greatest advance the Symbiotry has ever known. Perhaps Grandin Farlink, the Dorlun emissary, stated the feelings of these 2 races most eloquently. At long last, he said, we can all be in touch with our pasts. Each race can now know the truths of its history. No longer must time be wasted with painstaking research and endless conjecture, only to arrive at an uncertain understanding of the events that shaped history. The answers, all the answers, lie within our reach if only we have the will to grasp for them.
Now, a lot of these red texts are going to be for the different alien races that they're talking about here. Much like with the historical part, I'm just going to put them up for a second. You can pause if you want, otherwise you can just kind of skip forward past it.
The opinion...
Because there's a lot of flavor text here, which is nice, but for our purposes right now, we just don't care. Sorry, that's just how I am.
The opinion... The Dorlun, perhaps Grandin. Despite being recently abandoned by the Kryn, 2 of humanity's staunchest supporters, the Sorolans and the Tsar, have continued to defend our right to autonomy over time travel technology. Like those that favor dismantling it, these 2 races would rather leave their past buried than risk losing it altogether. But unlike the others, the Sorolans and Tsar believe that humanity harbors a maturity beyond its years and can be entrusted with preserving the sanctity of history. In fact, they suggest that our closeness to our violent past makes us even better suited to manage time travel, as the dire consequences of the misuse of technology still stain our racial memory. Unfortunately, theirs is a minority opinion. The prevailing response to this argument is that Earth's record with time travel speaks for itself. In just 10 years, there have already been incidents of deliberate historical sabotage, the latest of which allegedly involving an agent of the Temporal Security Agency. Our benefactors, however, dismiss the Elliott, Sinclair, and Gage Blackwood incidents as aberrant acts by disturbed individuals rather than a weakness of humanity as a whole. And they ask, as a sign of good faith and trust in the newest member of the Symbiotry, that the future of time travel technology be left to our discretion.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Despite...
Alright, Kryn.
Despite... Despite being Despite, in fact, our benefit. The third viewpoint, which was originally held only by the Unwa, is that the existence of time travel technology represents a threat to the history of every race in the Symbiotry. For this reason, these races feel that all existing time machines should be completely dismantled. Following the arrest of Agent 5, the Loxoni changed their allegiance from petitioning for the release of time travel technology to requesting its destruction. They were joined by the Kryn, for whom this represents a break in their long-standing tradition of fervently supporting every race's right to sovereignty over its own technologies. The Loxoni now proclaim that if not destroyed, the technology must at the very least be put in the safekeeping of an elder race of the Symbiotry. They cite security as their main concern. Like the others that share their goal, they feel that humanity lacks the necessary discretion to control such a powerful tool. As a side note, it should be mentioned that the Loxoni themselves are among the eldest races of the Symbiotry.
So lots of varying opinions, lots of kind of changing of minds too, in particular because of the incidents, with this one being the most recent. It is also to note, it's like, they would want dismantled, but they are the ones that also are saying that, well, maybe someone else should have control of it. Could be talking about themselves, so it's kind of like, it's kind of hard to side with anyone 100%, I feel.
The third view... The third viewpoint.
I don't remember if we looked at Loxoni before.
They were joined by the Kryn.
Kryn, I think we already did. Yeah, we did.
They were joined by the Kryn, like the others that share their... Despite the arguments made by the Symbiotry envoys, the general opinion of the heads of ministry so far appears unswayed. Michael Rozhenko of the Northwest Asia Collective rebutted that the danger of time travel falling into the wrong hands and being used to change history, however slight, is still too great to even consider releasing the technology. It must be realized that time travel has not only the power to unlock the secrets of history, but also unparalleled potential for destruction. Few could argue that it would be foolish to give such a tool to anyone, regardless of its intended use. On the other hand, it's also too late for it to be destroyed, as was pointed out by Chancellor of Law Rick Allen, when he stated that the technology has already been created and can therefore be recreated. Chancellor Allen emphasized his point by attesting that if all known time travel technology were destroyed and a new time machine built without government knowledge or approval, there would be no way to intervene in the actions of the illicit time traveler. he would have free rein to rewrite history to his liking. Unfortunately, such scenarios are all too likely, as was proven by the Elliot Sinclair incident and the current trial of Gage Blackwood.
And see, again, that's why I feel like you can't destroy it, because you do that and then someone secretly, messes with time. What do you do?
Despite the argument, Chancellor Allen...
No alien races in there. Okay, that should be it for this one. Let's move on to the Louvre auction. Raises 138.5 billion credits.
INN will return after a word from our sponsor.
Cheese girl!
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I could go for some cheese girl right about now.
In a last-ditch effort to stay afloat, the Louvre Art Museum held an auction of unprecedented scale yesterday. The museum was forced to sell off many of its older collections to pay off creditors and to raise funds desperately needed for renovations to the facility. In a fervent display of support, the art community rallied around the historic landmark, showing that the museum itself is every bit as valuable an artifact as any of the works of art it contains. The auction was an astounding success, raising 138.5 billion credits, easily surpassing the 100 billion credit goal. This windfall was due in large part to one generous bidder who preferred to remain unidentified. Martin Walker is standing by with a live report from the Louvre.
Now, I don't know what the translation from dollars as we know it here to credits in the future, but I'm going to assume that's a lot of money.
Thanks, Mark. I'm standing inside the historic Louvre Museum in Paris. Behind me sits one of the few pieces to survive yesterday's extensive art auction. Items up for auction included artifacts and works of art from many of the Louvre's oldest collections, including the Da Vinci exhibit, the ancient Egyptian, and Toltec Mayan exhibits. 4 particular items were snapped up by a generous bidder who paid much more than the asking price. The bidder's identity is unknown, but it is assumed to be an art enthusiast who didn't want to see the Louvre shut down. There are rumors, however, that the buyer may actually have been acting on behalf of another race in the Symbiotry, which, according to the Earth History Preservation Act of 2322, would be illegal. We're told an investigation may follow. Museum sources that I spoke to speculated that the revenue from the auction will be enough to keep the Louvre in operation for at least the next 5 years. However, they warned me that the price of admission may go up in order to help cover operating costs, a small price to pay for such a wealth of human history and culture.
Even in the future, the prices of everything are still going up. Sounds about right to me. Alright, financial difficulties.
The Louvre's financial difficulties arose from a combination of rising maintenance costs, overspending, and lower than normal attendance. Several costly acquisitions in recent years sunk the museum into spiraling debt. When repairs to the facilities became unavoidable and visitor attendance fell, it became clear that a major influx of cash was needed to cure the museum's ills. In June, the decision was made to auction off several of its older exhibits. That decision paid off well yesterday.
Let's see. We'll read this one. The Louvre, an ancient palace known as the Louvre, was constructed in Paris during the reign of Louis XIV. It was later turned into an art museum of worldwide renown and still boasts such masterpieces as Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and Kenneth Farstein's Self-Awareness. The Louvre became the world's most privately owned museum when it was purchased from the French government by a conglomerate of multinational firms in the year 2094. And these lead to things we've already read before.
The Louvre's financial... The 4 items that the unidentified bidder purchased included the Toltec Mayan ceremonial coffer, King Richard the Lionheart's sword from the Crusades, Leonardo da Vinci's Codex Atlanticus, and an interactive sculpture entitled Self-Awareness, credited to Kenneth Farnstein. Attendees of the auction said the buyer did not try to purchase any other items, but immediately made an excessive bid on these 4 artifacts as soon as the bidding opened. Experts estimated that the unidentified man paid at least 7 billion credits more than the true value of the pieces, but none could say why he was so interested in 4 such disparate artifacts. They eventually conceded that it may have simply been their rich histories that intrigued him.
And we can actually see the individual items here. So the Mayan coffer. This unusual jade and gold coffer is thought to have played a role in Mayan religious ceremonies. It was discovered in 2027 during an archaeological dig within a previously undiscovered cavern below the pyramid known as the High Priest's Grave in Chichen Itza. The most distinctive features of the coffer are its cylindrical shape and intricate locking mechanism, which make it the most important find ever to have come out of Chichen Itza. The complex mechanics of the device, which is similar in construction to a Chinese puzzle box, prove that the Maya were much more capable builders than previously believed. For many years, the coffer was thought to be cursed, as its first 4 owners perished under mysterious circumstances. It is now known that the lock mechanism contains poisoned needles that jab anyone who attempts to open it without having entered the proper combination. Yet, despite the fact that the coffer is now better understood, old beliefs and superstitions have dissuaded any further attempts at opening it. Unfortunately, radiography has yielded few clues about the contents of this unique coffer, which currently resides in the Louvre Museum of Art and History. Richard I's sword. This beautiful sword remains one of the finest relics of the medieval period. Its masterfully engraved forged steel blade is embellished with intricate ornamental designs from the very tip down to its elegantly simplistic hilt, which is punctuated with a 4-carat diamond. Thought to have been lost forever after taken by Philip Augustus in the siege of Chateauguard in 1204, this masterpiece was unearthed almost a millennium later during excavation of a condemned French chateau. The sword has apparently been in the collection of a wealthy baron who hid his valuables in an underground bunker during World War II. They remained there for almost 3/4 of a century until rediscovered in the year 2015. Codex Atlanticus is Leonardo da Vinci's codex on flight. It contains his collected observations on the flight of birds, as well as designs for flying machines, and other thoughts on how flight can be achieved by humans. The Codex Atlanticus, like all of da Vinci's other codices, is written in Latin mirror writing, giving us a glimpse in his secretive nature. It is not known whether any of the flying machines designed by da Vinci were ever built. If so, they were certainly not capable of flight. However, as his designs and concepts could be seen in working flying machines centuries later, there's no denying that da Vinci must be credited as the father of the flying machine. And self-awareness. The interactive sculpture entitled Self-Awareness is one of a series recovered from the derelict space station Amarex in AD 2282 that were later credited to the artist and biotechnologist Kenneth Farin. These sculptures have long been the subject of much speculation and controversy, as they followed a series of paintings, undoubtedly by the same author, which Farin himself credited to an artificial personality which he had created. Though his claims were never substantiated, there's enough evidence to have captured the world's imagination, and to this day, people speculate as to whether Farin has succeeded in what no one to this day has achieved, the creation of true artificial life. Regardless of their origin, the sculptures gained immediate recognition as masterpieces. Testimony to this was ably provided by New York Chronicle art critic Karine Polak. Sorry, I mispronounced that. In the following review, excerpted from the May 12, 2022, 2286 edition of the paper. Humanity's long history of artistic endeavors has periodically allowed us mere mortals an occasional glimpse into the clarity of vision that is the domain of genius. The Van Goghs, Mozarts, I can't pronounce that one, Duchases of this world have opened doors inside us with their work. For a moment, bringing into sharp detail the foggy, fuzzy things at the peripheral edge of our own introspection. With an astounding series of multi-dimensional emotive constructions, the anonymous, I will never be convinced of the popular crediting of Farin, tour of the self-here life sculptures, places herself among the ranks of history's great cartographers of the soul. The pieces, which in their neutral form of luminous spheres are impressive enough for their unfathomable technology, have a physical presence that is impossible to convey in words, as indeed, they have evaded the most accomplished documentarians' attempts to capture them on web. The experience of reaching out to self-awareness, the visceral response as it disrobes and unfolds into a chronologue of unfiltered emotion, is one that must be felt in situ? I don't know what that means. In person, I guess. One has the sense, as with all great art, that it is responding to you personally. What truly sets the self-here alive work apart, however, beyond the controversy of their discovery and the novelty of their media, is the sense of an unself-consciousness, as if the artist was simply purging herself of emotion, unfiltered by intellect, free of the pretensions of interpretation or analysis. One is left to wonder if the artist is not a child, unrestrained by the burden of understanding, but driven by the need to make tangible the elusive currents of life, as if to capture them in the frame of a canvas, with the patterns of a projection were to somehow bind them, like the power of naming an arcane magic. But then, is that not what art has always been about? Sorry, that's a lot to read. Alright, that's it for that, for the high bidder. And finally, the last video clip, and then we're done with these stories, at least for now. The Sinclair incident, 10 years later.
The events surrounding the arrest of Agent 5 bring back, for most, memories of the Elliot Sinclair incident. That historic day 10 years ago could have turned out much differently if it weren't for Agent 5 of the Temporal Protectorate. After building the first ever functional time machine, only to have the government shelve the project because it was considered too dangerous, Sinclair decided to sidestep the politicians and build his own temporal transporter. Years later, when the Sirolans made contact with Earth to offer us a place in the symbiotry of peaceful beings, the xenophobic scientist suddenly found himself with a new purpose. Fearing an alien invasion, he tried to convince the public that the Sirolans were not what they appeared to be. But this endeavor met with little success. Frustrated, exasperated, and on the verge of insanity, Sinclair formulated a plan to make Earth a more difficult target for the Sirolans. On the day of the Sirolan ambassador's arrival, he sent each of his 3 robot minions back in time to change the course of history. The first he sent to create a nuclear scare that would prevent world unification and prolong the Cold War. The second was to destroy the Morimoto Mars colony and make it look like the work of an alien race. And the third Sinclair sent to kill Dr. Enrique Castillo, the individual who was most influential in convincing humanity of the benefits of joining the Symbiotry. His backup plan, should his robots have failed, was to assassinate the Sirolan delegate. It was our good fortune that Agent 5 was on duty at the Temporal Security Annex that day. He detected the temporal distortions, stopped each of the androids, and then apprehended Sinclair himself. That fateful morning made a hero of Agent 5 and spawned the blockbuster holoflick, The Journeyman Project. Elliot Sinclair was put on trial and found guilty of all charges. He was sentenced to life imprisonment on Vega Thalon and hasn't been heard from since.
You know, the more I read these things and listen to them talk, he called the Annex again as well. I actually truly can't 100% say for sure that it was a mistake to have it listed the way it was. Maybe that is the actual canon of it, that they changed the name of themselves as opposed to just oh, we're just going to change this now. Either way, I find it interesting. They showed the clips from the first game talking about it, and the very end there where he tells you, get back, and then he starts shooting with his like laser rifle thing, that part of it only happens when you fail to stop him, because then he shoots, and then he turns and shoots you. That's one of the death sequences. In the actual game, when you actually succeed, he never gets the shot off because you hit him with the stun gun. So I just always find it interesting that they show all these clips. Okay, that's from the first game. It's a kind of a nice recap. But then they show him like clearly shooting, which well, that didn't actually happen if you actually stopped him. But anyways. Okay, finally, that is all for the stories. Again, I know it's a lot to have gone through. We're probably like an hour into this at this point, but I feel like it's important to get all that information because now we know where we stand, as well as if you paid attention to some parts, there are little bits of hints of some things that we'll connect to later. I'm not going to necessarily explicitly point them out now until they become relevant. I will say, though, that we did get some more research points. We should be at 5 total, so we should have gotten 4 more. There's some from going through, like, the prosecution's evidence, the Symbiotry discussions, the Louvre auction. Clicking into certain texts or watching certain parts got us research points. Again, I will not explicitly say what some of those were because they technically do point to something that will be relevant later, and I just don't want to spoil it for now. Just know that we got research points for doing that. So let's go ahead and get up from here, and let's actually get into a little bit of the actual gameplay now, because I do want this first part, as long as it's going to be, not just be us listening to stories and reading text. Let's actually play the game just a little bit, and I know exactly where I want to stop. So, before we can get to time jumping, which we could do, and actually on that note, I'm going to go ahead and make a save here real quick, because that was a lot to go through. If you paid attention to those commercials, which in the future we still have advertisements like that, there were some codes for some things that we can try buying. And if you come over here, we have this, the Universal Domestic Replicator, the VAL 9000. So if you look at the menu, we have an auto chef, which we have our diet here for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. If you try clicking any of these, unable to process your request, you have already replicated the allotted meals for the current date and time. Thank you for using auto chef. It says that for all of them. Lunch, dinner, snack, you can't have any of it. Postbox, we have no parcels at the moment, but if we go to the ShopNet, we can enter a product code. So let's try entering some of those that we had from the advertisements. And I love this because the ads were just kind of a fun thing, but they're also relevant to the game. So if we enter in for this one here, 689222378, any incorrect code, I think we'll just put. We'll try putting in a wrong code, but this we can transmit. It is for the Translate Biochip. Now, it lists the price and all that, but, I mean, we don't care. Technically, this is us, you know, our future us's money, but for me, 10 years ago me, this ain't my money yet, so, sure, we'll purchase. Your order has been processed. Purchase price has been deducted from your account. Product has been sent to your post box. Thank you for using ShopNet. Let's try entering in just an incorrect code. It just blanks it out. It doesn't even give you an error message. Next, let's try doing, just for kicks, why not, let's do the Cheese Girl, 978. Cheese Girl. Go ahead and get that. And then finally, might as well, let's get that, that single from Geno Andrews. Geno Andrews single, and it's free. Now, if we go to the post box, you can see we can actually get our parcels, and how does it get to us? Replicate it. The wonders of modern technology. So, we'll take a look at that in a sec. Let's really quick get our other item we need for now, the Cheese Girl. And then, really quick, this is just to save myself some time later. Trust me, it'll make sense later. I'm going to actually re-enter in the code for the Cheese Girl. We'll buy that, but we'll leave it in the post box for now. We're also going to leave the Geno Andrews single for right now. We'll get to that later. But let's go ahead and look at the things we bought. We got the Translate Biochip. The Samco Translate Biochip is capable of translating both the written and spoken forms of every known language. Simply pop it into your biotech interface and click the Activate button. The Samco Translate Biochip does the rest. Samco, guaranteed for life. In case of malfunction, please call 204-555-398-008. And then the Cheese Girl. Cheese Girl processed cheese food spread is made from 2 separate chemicals which mix when forced out of the pressurized can, coagulating into a non-toxic cheese-like substance. Warning, contents under pressure. Risk of inadvertent propulsion in 0G environments. Alright. So, with that, we are actually ready to go ahead and finally get to a time zone. If we go to now our jump menu, we can check out the 4 different time zones that were mentioned. Now, we're going to go in the most optimal order so we don't have to do a ton of backtracking. So for right now, we're going to start with Farinstein's lab. Please read the mission briefing for Farin Lab before initiating jump sequence. It does not let you do this unless you read this first. You can just click pass if you want though. But let's read it. It's real short. Farin Lab. In the year 2282, a salvage vessel cruising Saturn for derelict ice mining platforms discovered the research station Amarex, which had served as the secret workshop and last known residence of master artist Kenneth Farnstein. The Amarex had been badly damaged in an asteroid shower, with entire wings torn from its tattered hull. Upon inspecting what remained of the station, the salvage crew found 4 unique interactive sculptures made of polymorphic neural matter, and an advanced neural computer which became the direct forebear of modern technology. The soft web that drove the computer, however, had perished decades earlier when the crippled station's power reserves ran dry. Farnstein was an enigmatic figure, part artist, part computer scientist. His far-fetched claims that the art he sold was the work of an artificial being of his own making were, for many years, considered the ravings of a lunatic. But with the discovery of the Amarex, this belief has come under serious scrutiny. Your mission is to explore the damaged space station just after the accident while it still has power in its reserves. Try to determine the truth behind Farnstein's work. Comb the station for any signs of an artificial intelligence or anything else which may have gone unreported by the salvage crew, starting with the station's neurocomputer. As Farnstein is believed to have perished in the asteroid shower, the station should be vacant. Your destination coordinates have been scanned and cleared. Now that we've read that, the game will enable us to jump. Technically, earlier when we first got into the game, without even going to the news or reading into the message from ourselves, if you were to come to the jump menu, you could have gone to the mission briefing, read that, and this would light up. But if you try clicking it then, the game warns you, you need to go find that hidden message from yourself first before it'll let you go. It's like I programmed it so that you have to find my message first. Kind of a nice thing so that you have to at least get the very bare bones part of the story. But all right, enough talk about all that. See, again, the menu. I think it might time out. Honestly, I think that's what's happening. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump to Farnstein Lab. Warning, atmospheric oxygen level 0%, switching to emergency oxygen reserve. Alert, 0G environment. Propulsion source required for movement. You can see that we have no options to actually move anywhere. We're stuck outside of the space station for some reason. And real quick, we'll go ahead and make a save. But, if you actually recall the description of the cheese girl, risk of inadvertent propulsion in 0G environments. Hey, propulsion. And if you also think to the actual ad, it did show the little cheese girl thing just kind of like flying around being used. So, if you actually take this and use it on the left or the right side, you use it to propel yourself. Now that's really weird because supposedly this place should be abandoned, but we just had a voice tell us to get off, my station. So that's kind of weird. But let's go ahead and kind of look around here. I'm not going to look at 100% of everything at the moment. Trust me, it'll make more sense a little bit later. For now, let's just kind of move along. Get some creepy station sounds. Go away.
Pressure variance too great. Door may not be opened until pressure is equalized.
You will find that a lot around this station. A lot of these doors we cannot get into. Sounded like, leave me alone. Let's see if we can make it into this here. So some doors do open for us.
That always seemed to work in Scooby-Doo.
Now that line always confused me because I always wondered, where was that voice coming from? As a kid, I was dumb and thought that was myself talking, but that doesn't make any sense.
So, I guess I haven't gotten rid of you after all. You just pop up in different spots, like whatever pops up in different spots. So what, corrupting my work not enough? Back to finish the job? What?
Someone sounds very angry. Let's check out this computer here. Gives us a display of the station. And we can use this to click the different areas. You can see habitat wing. It's depressurized right now. Crew berths, hydroponics, mess rec module, a lot of places. And most of it has like no pressure or needs to be pressurized. Biomass processing, med lab, neuronics, AI nexus, scanner room, science wing, docking bay. It does say that we are here currently, so let's go ahead and try pressurizing here.
Cannot pressurize. Foreign object obstructing habitat wing door seal.
Foreign object. Let's take a look here.
And I thought I was being rescued. I'm breathing my last breaths here, and I get visited by Guido, the space vandal. Come all this way to tamper with my sculptures. What are you, an art critic?
No.
So, what do? Travel around space looking for derelict crafts you can terrorize the survivors by redecorating while they're helpless? What'd you do? Bring a spray can too?
Did you bring a spray can too? You gonna graffiti the place? So if you turn back here where we came in, there is this here, a metal bar. This is a strong metal bar approximately 1 meter in length. So this was what was blocking the door from pressurizing.
Look, if you're here to rescue me, fine. Just get on with it. If you're gonna add insult to injury by messing with my work, I can do without it, okay? Just leave me here to die in peace with my artwork. What do you want? What do you want?
They get very aggravated. There's only so many voice lines that will play there, though. Alright, so now we should be able to pressurize, which will help because our oxygen level will continue to deplete just over time, but movements also deplete it. And yes, you can run out of oxygen. So let's try pressurizing it now. And it tells you replenishing oxygen reserves. Okay, so pressurize, which means the doors should work better now, and we're not in any danger of suffocating. If you tried clicking the door earlier, it would just give the same message about the pressurize need to be equalized.
Warning. Localized gravitation manipulator pads malfunctioning. All personnel advised to clear docking bay.
So basically, it's telling you that movement is messed up in here, and it's like a little maze. Honestly, besides just kind of guessing your way through, I don't know if there's any way to actually like be able to figure out which way you'd go. Maybe you can. Maybe it's something with the ground. Maybe something the way it's lit up. I don't think it necessarily is. You just kind of like eventually figure out how to get through. So we're just gonna do that.
Where are you going anyway? You seem different somehow. Unlike before, your patterns, you're more curious, like you don't really know what you're doing here, do you? You're not the same intruder.
Same intruder? They're talking about someone that was here.
So, why are you here? Are you looking for something? Me?
Maybe.
I don't know why I feel this, but I guess I have an instinct about you. My other guest didn't feel right. You're different somehow. Like I should trust you.
Sure, you can trust me. Don't I have a trustworthy face?
Sorry, you'll have to excuse the scanner. I eyes and ears for the moment. Most of the station monitors are dead. Here. Well, here you are. You found me. Well, part of me, anyway. Not much to look at, I know, but it's what's inside that counts. Well, I guess I've decided to trust you. It's not like I have many options. I don't know, maybe we can help each other out. Why don't you move into the room so we can talk better? I'm afraid this conversation is going to be a little one-sided. My command-level voice recognition module got a little jumbled in the accident. Well, I'm Arthur. You've probably figured out by now that I'm not real. But I'm learning to accept it, really. I split off a few copies of myself, and together we're sharing our feelings about it in group. Anyway, this is what I am. An artificial, non-organic sentient being, if you want to be politically correct, trapped in this wreck with the power dying out a little quickly, I'm afraid. I've yet to figure out who you are, though. I think I can safely rule out the fire department. I thought I was pretty advanced, but the technology I'm reading in your suit is astounding. And this is crazy, but it almost seems like an evolution of mine. Look, if you'll let me, I should be able to interface with your logic system and maybe get a clue as to who you are and how we can help each other. It means an intrusive scan, but we're both lost here, and I need you to trust me. What do you say?
Now, I like how it says yes or no. You can actually say no, though. I don't think I ever said no as a kid, but trying it out now.
Well, figure it out for yourself, then. Someone else will come along soon enough. I've had 2 in one day, haven't I? You'll have to leave the same way you appeared. There's nowhere to go from here. If you change your mind, you know where to find me.
So he just says, well, fine, I'm not going to help you then, but you can just zoom back in and just skip straight to the yes. He also said the second, so they're talking about someone else has been here before.
Alright, let's see what we've got. Temporal security? You're from the future. Well, I'm pleased to meet you, Gage. Wow, you're quite the hero. I guess this is my lucky day. But that's you. I don't get it. Whoa, I'm starting to get a headache here. This plot's getting a little hard to follow. I'm starting to get the picture here. Hey, this is about me. This is better than palm reading. Perished? Then you can't help me or you'll change history.
I'm sorry. I've probably seen more than I should. I should have never scanned your biochips. Wait a second. Your biochips. Gage, I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Take me with you. Your biochips are derived from the same wetware as my brain, only 1,000 times more advanced. If you take me with you, it'll cause a time distortion or whatever, but if I download a copy of myself onto a blank chip, nothing will have changed. And you need me. I know who framed you, the same person who messed with my sculpture. I can show you what they changed. What do you think? Is it a deal?
Is it a deal? No!
Well, I can't help you then.
It makes me so sad. He sounds so sad. It's like, oh, I guess not then. Makes me feel so bad. Yes.
Great. Oh, you're not gonna regret this, Gage. Now let's see. I should be able to transfer the data across optically from my core. This is gonna work. That means we've got to get you inside the Nexus, which of course is inconveniently detached from the station at the moment. How do we do this? The door release. The decompression should propel you across to the Nexus. I'll have to give you the override code. It's risky, but it's doable.
Alright, sounds good.
Okay, punch in this code. 32770. The rest is up to you. Good luck.
32770. Fire in the hole!
Emergency door release initiated. Please stand by.
Alright, so now let's go ahead and just click this.
Welcome, come to my brain. All that I am is contained in that sphere.
You're gonna have to open me up. There's a manual code log. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I think it has to do with exchanging the red lights for green and vice versa. You'll have to figure it out. After that, well, if it works, the next time I talk to you should be from inside your suit.
This one's a pretty simple puzzle. They basically have these lights, you need to flop them around, but they can only move one space or jump over one light. They can't jump over two. So what you have to do is create a path for all these green ones to get moving, and the red ones, and the green ones, like that.
To anyone who may be listening, my name is Dr. Kenneth Farnstein. I've made this recording in the event that anything should happen to me. This message is an appeal. 26 years ago, I undertook an experiment to create a new kind of artificial intelligence. A system demonstrating the traits of self-awareness and creativity. My results have been astonishing. At first, I considered the experiment a failure. I had created an erratic, unpredictable, thoroughly irrational program, but it had a curiosity, you see. And occasionally, a burst of insight so lucid I was astonished at the understanding. Not the cold conclusions of a machine, but something more right-brained, more intuitive. It was life. It was a result I was unprepared for. Arthur is not simply a program, he is a person. And I have sheltered him here from the circus our world would make of him. I'm afraid I may have corrupted him enough with my obsession for 20th century media. I ask that you understand, and if you can find it in yourself, to protect him for a while. He means a great deal to me.
Incoming flashing lights.
Not exactly flattering. In less than 100 years of progress, you can fit me on a chip. So, how do you like my new home? Comfy little interface, eh? So, this is how I think I can help you out. I couldn't figure out a way for you to ask me questions directly, but I've created a comment button that'll light up if I have something to offer. I've actually become pretty fascinated with art history and stuff, and by the looks of what your future self was researching, what I've studied could come in handy. I've also created a help button in case you get stuck on a problem. You know what they always say, 2 minds are better than 1. But hey, you're the detective. I'm sure you'll want to figure it out on your own before resorting to my help. There's more info in the chip's inventory description. You might want to check that out. As to our mutual friend, he was reprogramming one of my sculptures in the biomass processing module. I think he set up some sort of harmonics response, but the only way to find out for sure is to visit the scene of the crime. And that means getting to that part of the station. I gather you don't have control over where you jump to in a time zone, so it may be a trek. The accident really trashed that part of the station. In fact, we may want to come back to it later. Alright, so maybe it won't make much difference when we get to it, but to be totally honest, I'd much rather go somewhere other than back to the station my first trip out of here, if you know what I mean. I could use a little adventure. Alright, Gage and Arthur's big adventure. I like the sound of that.
And finally, we now have Arthur on our team. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I love this game. Some people may find Arthur annoying, though to be fair, a lot of it you don't have to listen to, just don't click the comment button. I personally love having him as a part of this game. And he is actually very helpful. Not only do you learn some interesting things, but he will sometimes hint at little things. You can directly ask for the help, which does technically cost you points, which the score does not matter. But it is a thing. You do lose points for asking for help. So that's the only thing I won't be clicking on. I'll click basically all the comments that I can. We just won't click the help, because I just don't want to lose points. Now, we are finally at the end of the first part. So we're actually going to go ahead and make a save here. End of part 1. This is probably like an hour and a half long. I know, kind of long for a first part. But honestly, I needed all that story to be set up. And I just didn't want the first couple of parts of this to just be just the story and having no gameplay. So, now, Arthur did say that, well, we might check out some other places. No, we're going to come right back here. But first, we are going to recall back home. But we will do that in the next part. As for now, this is the end of part 1. If you don't care about seeing that that interface overview thing at the menu, you can go ahead and basically just end it now. Otherwise, I'm going to attach that to the end of this here, just for reference, just so it's for completeness sake, because I don't know where else to put it. So, other than that, that's the end of part 1. In the next video, we will go ahead and jump back home first for a little bit of snooping around there, because there's actually still some more information for us to find, which is why I was holding off on that. And then we're going to come back here to the lab and try to figure out what actually happened here, because Arthur is talking that there was another person here. So we know now that we are not the only ones that have been to this time zone. Somebody else has been here. Very likely the perpetrator, but we don't know exactly what they were doing or who it was, but maybe we can find some clues as to some of those questions. Anyways, that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.
The jumpsuit's navigation buttons allow you to turn left and right, look up and down, and move forward in the direction you're currently facing. A lit navigation button means that you can turn or move in that direction. You'll stop walking forward when you reach the next decision point. You can scroll through the items in your possession by clicking the up and down arrow buttons located next to the item list. Clicking the Inspect button between the arrows brings up an information screen on the selected item. To pick something up, click and drag it from the view window down into your inventory and let go. To use an inventory item, click and drag its picture icon into the main view window and drop it on top of the object you want to use it on. Items used by or on your jumpsuit are activated by simply clicking on their pictures. Biochips are program modules that allow the jumpsuit to perform specific tasks. Biochips may be added to the jumpsuit to give it new functions. To activate a biochip, click on its picture in the inventory item icon window. This will bring up a control panel for that biochip. To get information about what a biochip does or how it works, click the Inspect button. The final element of the jumpsuit's interface is the message window. This display will alert you to any situations or dangerous conditions that you need to be aware of. Pay close attention to the information displayed here. It could save your life. For further information on the jumpsuit and its interface, see the Buried in Time instruction manual or access the file's biochip after starting the game.